Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another front-end class. So today, in today's class, basically I'm talking about JavaScript, introduction to JavaScript, and nothing much more complex. Just introduction to JavaScript. And on Wednesday, we'll go ahead to talk about something much more complex in JavaScript. Just give me a minute, please. All right. So as I was saying, right, I said we're going to be talking about JavaScript today, right? And uh, I'm not going to make everything too complicated. In fact, we might just take 2 hours today to explain everything on JavaScript. So it's just an introductory class, nothing more. And before we get started with JavaScript, I need everybody to first of all have a relaxed mind. Do not think JavaScript is something hard or something that you cannot get. It is actually not that. JavaScript is something easy, although not too easy, because I will not lie to you too. There is a lot of work to be done, but it is something that if you can get the concept, get the basic concept, then you can build anything with JavaScript. Now, that's what it does. Now, in in today's class, right, I'm just going to go ahead and give some explanations of what we're going to be doing. Now, I'm going to be introducing you to what JavaScript is. Then I'm going to explain to you the variables, data types in JavaScript, operators, conditional statement, and arrays. So these are what we're going to be doing in this class. So first of all, what is JavaScript? Now, JavaScript is a lightweight programming language used to make web pages interactive and dynamic. Now, you know that I explained to you in previous classes that in front-end development, you have three main languages. You have your HTML, you have your CSS, and then you have your JavaScript. I said your HTML structures your web page and writes the content for you. Your CSS styles those contents written by HTML and the structure, and then your JavaScript adds the behavior and interaction. Or in other words, it adds functionality to your HTML. Now, this is basically what it does. It allows your web page to respond to user actions like button clicks, form inputs, animations, data updates without reloading. You understand? So this is why JavaScript is often called the language of the web. So, and if anybody asks you what's the language of the web, just use JavaScript because literally almost everything right now on the web runs on JavaScript. So it is the language of the web. So that is basically what JavaScript does. That's basically what it does. No. Now in today's class, what you will learn is you will understand what variables are, you understand what data types are, you understand what operators are, conditionals, arrays, objects, function, DOM manipulation, events, loops, hoisting, asynchronous JavaScript, and APIs. This is what we're going to be talking about in this JavaScript class. Not today, but over the next couple of weeks. Talking about all of these things in JavaScript. But for now, we're going to get started with variables. And I need to know if everybody really understands what I just said. Is it clear to us? Just give me a thumbs up if it is clear. And if it is not, I can still explain it again. It's only clear to one person. Swivel, Mr. Kelvin, and Mr. David, is it clear to you? All right. So let's get started. Now, one thing that I need you to do is I need you to first of all open up your file. So we're going to open up a new file. right? And I'm going to call it JavaScript class. I'm just going to go back to projects, to open folder. Let me go to open folder. I'm going to call this Tech Edu class. Tech Edu JS class, and I'm going to give it class 1. Have we all done this, please? I'm very sure that we have our folders open or our project open. If you've done this, give me a thumbs up. I wish everybody is listening to me, because if you've done this, you've been able to do this, please give me a thumbs up so we can move on. All right, 2 people. All right, let's move on then. So um so yeah, we have access to our workspace now. The next thing is that we'll have to create our JavaScript file. Now, to create a JavaScript file, we've actually been doing something similar since. To create your HTML file, click on this piece, write your index.html, index.html, right? To work on CSS, you write your style.css, right? To create your JavaScript file, it is saved with the .js extension, .js, right? So I can easily say app.js. Then automatically, I have now created the JavaScript file. You understand it now? So all I have to do is write app.js, and my JavaScript file is going to get included. So I'm going to also create HTML file, index.html, because I'm going to need my HTML file. I'm going to explain why you need your HTML file in a bit. But for now, I'm going to keep this HTML private. We do not need it at the moment. So when we need it, we'll come back to it. And please, if you've been able to create your JavaScript file, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up, right? If you've not been able to do that, also let me know so that I know what to do. Have you been able to do it? Please give me a thumbs up with 1 person. Okay, so looks like everybody is getting the answer to that. So let's go on. Let's move on to app.js. Now, the first thing I'll be talking about in JavaScript is variables. Now, in today's class, I'm just going to talk about 2 things, right? We'll talk about variables, and then we'll talk about data types. These 2 things are something I will be talking about extensively. So I'm just going to put it in the comments. I'm going to say variables, right? And I'm going to say data types, right? These are the 2 things that we'll be talking about extensively into this class. So we're going to have variables, and then we're going to have data types. Now, what are variables? I've explained variables in our last class when we were doing SCSS, right? And what I call variables is that variables are a container. They are containers. Let me use containers. Containers used in storing values that can be accessed later. Now, this is basically what your variables are. Now, what do we mean by containers? In programming, right, there is one thing that you always need to know, and is that you always use data or values a lot of times. You always reuse them. So what are we saying? So for instance, if a user wants to like log into our website and we are trying to take their information, so we're trying to take their password, their email, and all of those things. All of those values, all of those data need to be stored. And for them to be stored, we have to assign them to like a variable, like a container that stores these things. So that is basically what your variables are. Like I said, variables are like a carton, right? Where you go to and then you want to try to access stored values. Now, please, if this is understandable, please give me a thumbs up if you understand this. Is it clear to you for at this point? Is it clear to you? If it is not clear, I'm also on mute. And that's basically what variables are. Variables are containers used in storing values that can be accessed data. So again, variables are containers used to store what data. So they are like a box, a labeled box, right? And I explained in our last class, when we're talking about variables in SCSS, that imagine maybe you want to drink Predator now. What happens is that you have, first of all, you have a label. So let's say you want to drink Predator, you have the can. The can is like your variable, right? Because it is what is storing the content. The content is now your so let's say the can is your variable, right? Then you now have the drink, right? The drink inside of it. The drink inside of it is like your value or your data, right? Because that's what it's storing, right? And then you now have the name of the drink, right? The name of the drink is like what the variable name. You understand? So to identify variable name, and this is to identify what? To identify the type of drink, right? So first of all, you have a variable, which is the can. You have the drink, which is the data, the things that are stored inside, and then you have what the variable name, which is actually to identify the kind of variable you are trying to store. Now, how do you store variables in JavaScript? This is quite easy. Now, I can easily say, so let's say for instance, I want to store this predator drink as a value. So what I can easily say is I can say var drink equals to predator. Now, what I have just done now is that I've just said the drink that I'm drinking, this particular drink, is what predator. So anywhere I reference drink, what the value of drink is going to be is what predator. And that is basically what the variable is saying. The variable is saying that okay, anything that you do, anything that you store, you give this particular name or you give any name here, you have assigned the value of um of that data to it. So what am I saying? So let's say let's say you want to store age. You can see var age equals 25. Now what you've just done is that what you've stored the value of 25 to age. So anywhere I reference age now, people will know that okay, it is 25 you're trying to talk about. You understand it now? So this is basically what your variables are saying. It's saying that okay, it's like a container that will store value. So for instance, if you want to store the name of a drink, stored it. If you want to store an age, you stored it. And this is basically what your variables are saying. Do we understand this at the moment? Is it clear to us? Give me a thumbs up if it's clear. If it's not, I can explain it again. It's clear to one person. I need reviews. I need answers. Is it clear to you? Favor Mr. David, Mr. Kelvin.
So please, can we go again? I don't get it.
All right, I'll explain it again. All right, let us explain this again. Now, before I explain it, take your mind off the syntax. I'll still explain the syntax, but try and understand what variables will do for you. Now, I said in today's class, we're going to be doing two things majorly. We're going to be doing variables and we're going to be doing data types. Now, starting with variables, what exactly do we mean by variables? I said variables are containers. So variables are containers. And what do I mean by containers? They are used in storing values, right? You have to first of all in JavaScript, even in programming, before you can use certain things, you have to first of all store them. And I give an example of maybe having a user that you want your users to log in. Now, if you want your users to log in, what happens? What happens is that first of all, you need to take their email, password, and some other details. Those details need to be stored. And how are they stored? Variables are like the catalyst. They are used in not really necessarily the catalyst, but they are used in storing these values and storing this data. And that's basically what your variables are. Now, in simpler terms, variables are like a box, right? So if I want to store, so for instance, if I want to say, um, um, let's say, let's, so I'm trying to say I want to store, let's store, Paul's age, right? So if I say I want to store Paul's age, what I have to do is first of all say that okay, this particular age because belongs to Paul, right? I'm going to store it in a variable. How do I store this? I can see var Paul. Let me say Paul equals to what? So see 15. You understand it now? So what I have just done is that anywhere we see Paul, we've not just known that okay, Paul is now what 15 because we're trying to store Paul's age, and that's what 15. You understand it now? And that's basically what the var is talking about, the variable is talking about. So technically, if I want to store, let's say Paul's profession, right? So I can say var profession, right? I can now say let's say uh which profession probably doesn't suit me. Farmer. You understand? So what I have just done now is that I have said, oh, my profession is that I'm a farmer and my age is what 15. You understand it now? So anywhere I reference Paul, if I say console.log Paul, Paul, right? What I have just done now is that I'm not going to print the value of 15 out. Just a moment. Let me do this for us so you can see what I'm trying to say. Script source app.js. I want to go live so you can see what I'm trying to say. So if I go live now and I open it up on my console, do not worry about the syntax again. I will explain this. Now, can you see what is being printed out to the console? 15. Why? Because I just specified that, okay, please print out the value of 4. And the value of 4 now is what? 15. Now, if I do the same thing to print out the value of what? Profession, I have now stored profession for the word farmer. So what's going to happen? Farmer is going to get printed out. You understand that? Now, this is basically what variables are saying. It's saying that, oh, if I store a particular value, I can now reuse that value multiple times. And it's still going to give me what? This particular data. So I can reuse the value of profession multiple times so that I don't have to always declare all of these things at the beginning of my page or wherever I need to use them. Now, this is what variables are saying. Ms. Favor, do you understand it? Please, if you
Yes,
do not,
sir. Yes, I
are you sure
get it now.
you understand it?
I get it now. But
All right.
sir,
Okay, go ahead.
um, we normally connect our HTML and CSS in the head, but this JavaScript we connect it inside the body.
Yes, I will explain that also. I'll explain that also.
Okay, sir.
But so far, without the old syntax, do we get it, Mr. David and Mr. Kelvin? Is it clear to you, please? I've not heard from both of you. Okay, so it's clear to Mr. David. What about Mr. Kelvin? All right, so we'll move on.
Yes, it's clear. It's clear.
All right, all right. So moving on, I'm going to explain. Go ahead again to explain what variables are. Now, in JavaScript, right, I've been declaring all my variables with var, right? I've been declaring all my variables with var. But in JavaScript, you are allowed to declare variables in three ways, right? So now there's something called variable, and in variable is for you to be able to store your variable, you have to take note of three things. Now I need everyone to understand this. For you to be able to store your variable, you have to take note of three things. Now the first thing that you're going to take note of is your variable keyword. The second thing that we're going to be talking about that you have to take note of is your variable name, right? And the third thing you're going to take note of is your data or value. Now, these three things are very much important. They are very, very much important. Now, we'll start explaining it one by one. We're going to start with variable keyword, right? In JavaScript, you have three variable keywords, right? You have the var, which we've been using. We have the let, and then we have the const. Now, these three variable keywords, they are all variable key. We all help you store a particular variable, but for different reasons. Again, you have the var, you have the let, and you have the const. Now, let's say I want to do the same thing I did before. Let's say I want to store name. Let's say first name of Paul, right, or the last name of Paul. I can easily say var first name equals to what? Paul, right? So what I have just done now is I've stored the value of first name for Paul. So anytime I reference first name, what comes out? Paul. But see the keyword that I use var. That's the keyword. I can still do the same thing. I can say var last name equals to Levites. I have Levites. So again, anytime you see last name, what is trying to say? Levites. So if I reference last name multiple times, I will always get the value of what Levites. Now, if I say console.log first name, and I duplicate this and change this to last name. Now, if you check it out now, what you're going to see is what for Levites. Now, that is basically what this keyword is saying, var. Now, similarly, you have let. Let is also the same thing with var, but just that let is now what like the newer version of what var used to be. And let is better when it comes to what OSIN, which we will talk about later much in this course. But first of all, you need to understand what let is. So if we say let, right? So I'm going to say let age equals to what? 12. Now it's still pretty much the same thing, right? If I now say console.log age, what I have just done is I'm trying to access the value of this particular let. You understand it now? So if you come right here now, you see 12. Do you understand it now? So this is what your let is. So as you can see, your let and var, they do probably almost the same thing. So the only difference is that let is now like the newer version of what your var is. No, before this, I think I need to explain to you like the history of JavaScript. Now, please, I need everybody to like hold on. We'll explain all of these things later. Let me explain something to you. First of all, JavaScript was created and it was known as um, light. Is it light script? Comment. I think it's light script. Let me check. Light script. So let's check it out. Yeah, live script rather. So originally when the language was created, the language was first called Mocha, then it was renamed to live script, and then final script. I'm going to explain why it was called JavaScript. Because initially, when they were calling it live script, not light script, live script. When we were calling it live script, right? Everybody, we needed developers needed it to be popular. You understand it now? So, and as at that time, the popular language was JavaScript, was Java rather, not JavaScript. The popular language then was Java. So people felt like people had created live script. So, okay, if we rename this JavaScript, what happens is that it now gains more popularity because of this name. So that's why it is now called what? JavaScript. It's now called JavaScript. It was called JavaScript up until 2009, and I'm going to explain this also. Now, in 2009, they now started introducing some newer models of JavaScript, right? And these newer models were now called ECMAScript, right? They were now called ECMAScript. Then up until 2015, they now released the newer version of ECMAScript, which is called ES6. So when they released ES6, which is ECMAScript 6, they now introduced Let, which is now the newer version of what of how you declare variables. Before you only declare variables with var. But they now found out that okay, var has some limitations, right? That it is not really good when it comes to using it for hoisting, and then you can fall into a lot of bugs. So that's why you're using what let as the replacement of var. Please, do we all understand what I just explained? Is it clear to us? Mr. Kelvin, you have a question.
Yes. It's like you've
Yeah.
used that to answer it here. I wanted to ask that what is exactly the difference between let and var? Because you said they are doing the same thing, but there should be at least one, difference between them.
Yes. So basically, like I said, when we are talking about just the differences that we're seeing, one of the major differences is that let is like a newer version. That's one thing. Now, if you're not talking about like practical differences, right? We're talking about hoisting, and we've not talked about hoisting yet in JavaScript. So if I explain it now, you probably won't understand it. So let is actually good when it comes to hoisting and also using it for global and local scope. Explaining that particular aspect, that is basically what your let is and it's going to do for you. But apart from that, I don't use var again. I don't think any developer should use var again because var right now is outdated. And also var affects your Windows property, which again is something we've not talked about, and I do not want to rush you. So, but for now, just know that we're going to be using let more in this in the course of this project. So, do you understand it now?
Okay, yes, understood.
Okay. So, who else on this does probably has issues with the explanation I just gave? Do you understand it, Miss Favor, Mr. Kelvin, Mr. David, and Mr. Pius? Is it clear to you? Okay, so we can move on now. I don't know. A lot of people are not on this call, which is I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it is not. It's just supposed to be like that because this is JavaScript class. This is a JavaScript class, and missing this kind of class is not ideal.
Maybe I'm
Uh,
thinking they did not get the information from the WhatsApp. Maybe they are thinking the class will hold normally by 11.
a lot of them actually read the messages. I saw it. Like only one person did not read the message, and I think that was John. So a lot of them
Okay.
actually. All right, so we'll just move on. Just a moment, please. I'm going to pause the record here. Then we're going to I'm going to give us time to. Okay, I don't. I think we've not really written anything so far. I think we've not really written anything so far. So I'm just going to go ahead and explain all of these things again, so we can have a much more better understanding of it. So the first thing I need to do is I need you to go to your HTML and connect your JavaScript file to the body. Now I'm going to explain why you have to do this. So use the script tag with the attribute of source and add app.js to it. So have we all done this? So again, use your script tag with the attribute of source and add your app.js to it.
Are we going to manually write this sroc and app.js because mine did not pop up, not automatically pop up?
So if it's not popping up, just manually write it.
All right.
We've connected it.
All right. So we can move on now. Who else is still having issues? Miss Favor, are you done?
Yes, I've connected mine.
All right. So let us move on now. So now the reason why we are connecting it this way and not at the end like we did with CSS is because JavaScript is different from CSS. Now, this is how it runs. You have your HTML, right? Your HTML is basically what your Java is, what your browser is going to run. Now, HTML starts running, your browser actually starts loading your HTML document from top to bottom. Now, imagine putting your script just before your body, right? Let's say putting the script. Come here, let me explain this. So if you put the script in this place, right? What you've just done is that you're telling your browser to load up your script, load up your functionalities before the body. Now, two things will happen. First of all, your site is going to be very slow. And why will it be very slow? It will be very slow because your app.js is a much more heavier stuff than your normal HTML content. So your browser will first of all try to load this up. Then while loading it up, it is taking more time. That's why you see that sometimes you have a longer waiting time. So instead of the site to load up in like 2 seconds or 3 seconds, it is loading up in 15 seconds. And anything more than 5 seconds is already a bad load timing. It's very bad timing when it comes to loading in web development, because a lot of users don't have that patience to wait for 15 seconds for your site to load. You understand it now? So you do not want that. Then there is another problem, and the problem is that sometimes even if your site does load up, what loads up first is the functionality, and then you start seeing that okay, your site starts behaving abnormally. So that's why it is not advisable to put this in this place, but it's advisable to put it in the body. So it has to be the last thing in the body. So what am I saying? Every HTML content, right, has to come before your script. You understand? So that you do not have that loading problem. Every single functionality has to, or every single HTML content has to come before your script. Please, I hope everybody understands this. Is it clear to everybody? Is it something that we all understand? Just give me a thumbs up if you understand it. All right. So, Mr. Vincent, you have a question?
Hello, please. Good morning. I
Yeah.
just joined the class not so long. I'm following up, but I don't understand the scripts that you just spoke about.
That's JavaScript. We've actually done I won't say quite a lot because we've not done too much. So we've been here for almost an hour now. So I don't know. I okay. So when we talk about the script, right? So I'm just talking about JavaScript. We're connecting this JavaScript file to this index of HTML file, and that's what we are trying to do. So for us to connect it, connecting CSS, we use your link tag right here. Use your link tag and then you link it to the CSS attribute. But in this case, we're not using link tag, we're using script tag, right, with the src attribute, right? And it's going to connect it to app.js, which is this app.js file here. So if you can understand this, you can still actually follow us with the class because we've not really done much when it comes to writing code. I've just been explaining what JavaScript is since. That's what I've been doing. Is it clear to you? Okay, so any other person, is it clear to us, please? Can we move on now? All right. So we'll move on. So now, if you've been able to do this, then I think we can get started with writing JavaScript. Now, I said something. Now, today's class, I'm going to talk about variables. Now, when we talk about variables, right, we're talking about containers that store data. And talking about these containers that store data, right, we're going to be talking about these three that var and let var is, right? First of all, let helps you when it comes to hoisting and also declaring local and global variables. We need to talk about very soon in this course. Then your var is your just your normal keyword. It's actually a very old way of writing variables. Nobody uses var again. Everybody uses let now. So how do you store your variable? First of all, you have to follow this convention. First is that you have to write your variable key name, variable keyword rather, variable keyword, right? Then the next is what you're going to set your variable name. So the next is that you're going to set your variable name, and then you're not going to give it a value, a data. So say data or value. And this is how you're going to work on your variable. Now, I told you that three things are involved. First is your variable keyword. Second is your variable name. And the third has to be your data and value. Now, this is basically how you work on your variable. Now, I'm going to give you an example of what I'm trying to say. So let us say I want to store my names. So my names, right? So how do I do this? I can say var, right? First name equals to Paul. So what I have just done now is that we have stored the value of what Paul to first name. So if I go ahead and I'll see console.log first name. So what I have just done now is that what if I check my console now, what will you see? You will see Paul, as you can see. So what I have just done now is that anywhere you see first name in my code or in my project, I'm referring to what? To Paul because I have just stored this particular first name to a variable. Now it's the same thing again if I say var last name equals to Levites. So if I still go ahead and say console.log last name, now what I'm going to get now is going to be what? Levi. So as you can see, Paul Levite. Because why? I said first name equals to Paul, last name equals to what? Levite. Then I said console.log first name and console.log last name. So what I have just done now is that what I have stored the value of first name to Paul, the value of last name to Levite. So anywhere I see this, I'm always going to get Paul and Levite. Now this is how variables work. So first of all, you have your variable keyword, you have your variable name, and then you have your what? Your value and data. Please, I need you to understand this and check it out. Again, you have your what? Your var is your variable keyword, your last name is your variable name, and then the value here is your what? Your data. Please confirm if you can understand this. Mr. David, you have a question.
How did you run your console log? Is it the normal go live or terminal?
We'll get to that. I just need to first of all understand that everybody gets this. We'll get to that. I'll explain that.
All right.
Yeah. Do we understand this, please? Okay, Mr. Powers understands. Who else understands? If you do not understand, please can unmute and let me know. All right, so let us continue. Now, as I said you have variables, right? And you have to first of all put three things into consideration when talking about variables. First is your variable keyword, second is your variable name, and the third has to be your data and value. And again, we declared var, which is your variable keyword. We declare first name, which is your variable name, and Paul, which is your value. Now we're going to talk about another variable keyword, which is let. So as I said, let is just similar to var, right? Let is similar to var. And when we talk about let, we are also talking almost the same thing as var, just that let is not like a modernized version of what var used to be. So now, if I say let age equals to 25, what I have just done now is that I've set the value of age to 25. So anywhere you see 25, just anywhere you see age, just so that what I'm trying to say is what 25. Now, if I come here and I say console.log age, and then you check it out, you're definitely going to see what 25. And that's what let is, and that is how you use your what your variable keyword. I'm going to use another example. I say let profession equals to, let's say, software engineer, right? So after saying software engineer, what you see now, you can see, and I say, let me bring it out to the console. So if I say console.log profession, and then I check it out. What do you have? Software engineers. We have qualified 25 and software engineer. Now this is basically what your let is talking about. This is basically not just even your let, but your variables is talking about. It allows you to store something to the value, to a particular value, and then it allows you to print it out. Now this is basically what your var and let does for you. Again, var and let, they are pretty much similar, just that let is a modernized version of what your var is, and it allows you to it allows better development. And that's basically what it does. So So far, do we understand this? Is it clear to us? Apart from the console.log, which I think you should leave out for now, do we all understand this? And can I explain further? Is it clear to us? Mr. David, your hands are up. Do you have a question? Okay. If you're having any problems, I think it is best you ask that question, because Java, this is like the fundamentals, this is basic of Java, of JavaScript. So if you are not understanding it, if you do not get this particular part, then you might have issues going into JavaScript later. So I need everybody to, like, if you do not understand, do not hesitate to bring it back into this class, because after today's class, going back might be hard because we'll be going into something more difficult. So please try as much as possible to bring me back if you do not understand this. Thank you. So I think Mr. Asusa is typing. Okay, Mr. Asusa, you joined late. Yes, you joined late. Okay. One thing is that you've not missed much, right? You've not missed much. In fact, we've still been on variables for the past how many hours or how many minutes. So you've not really missed much. So what I'm just going to advise is just try as much as possible, to catch up on this video. Just still follow us in this class. It's not something you've not missed much at all. Just keep following us, and also try and rewatch this video. It's very important for that. I'm recording, and I will make sure to post it for immediately after the class. Now, I've been using console.log since. What is console.log? Now, in JavaScript, console.log is a debugging tool. So when we say debugging tool, we basically use it in getting errors, to knowing where a particular error is, or in fact, we even use it in inspecting data. So for instance, I say console.log first name here. What did it give me? Paul. So what it is trying to tell you is that, okay, this particular data they are trying to store to this variable name. Let us inspect, let us see what is there. So when I said first name, it gave me Paul in my particular console here. You understand? That's what console.log is. So it is trying to log out certain values to your browser's console. Now, how do you get this? This is basically how you get it. So if you go to your HTML and you link it to your HTML, all you have to do is go live. So once you go live, you're going to get to this particular place. Now, right click and click on inspect. Now, after clicking on inspect, you see console. You click on console and you should be able to get every single thing that you're logging out to the console. Now, is this clear to everybody now? Mr. David, Mr. Everybody, is it clear to us? If it is clear, I can still explain it again so everybody can do it. Please, I need everybody to be able to log into their console now. Okay, Mr. David, go ahead.
I think you should let's write those codes and try the console.
Okay, I'll explain it again. So I'm going to give us time to write the code. And I will explain how to use that console again.